Hello?
Hey, I just wanted to check up on you to see how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Kip. I just have a cold.
What do you mean? You mutated into some big frog creature.
What are you talking about? I don't remember mutating into anything. I just have a sore throat and a runny nose.
Okay, sure. Anyway, why am I calling you? I can come by and see you.
Because I want to show off my Halloween phone, because I've never actually shown it before.
Of course, you would.
And hello everybody. Welcome to a Pokébotany mini-episode, but is a special Halloween video. Although no, it's not like last year. This is based on my own entry from Pokéstoric 2. So I suggest checking out that video before seeing this one. I do apologise for making this video late, as I was putting most of the focus on the main episode. I know I keep talking about it, but if you take a moment to check that video out, it'd be great. While I am using the games Resident Evil, Biohazard and Village as reference, there will be some changes with different lore and gameplay mechanics. The order of the entries for this video will be something you guys will have to figure out, although it's not going to be hard. Also, I won't be going into too much detail about the Pokemon themselves, mainly the stats and competitiveness and that, as I don't want to make this video too long. Finally, this video is definitely for more mature audiences, with body horror mostly, so don't watch this if you're squeamish. Oh, and spoilers. And I never played any of the Resident Evil games, so bear with me if I get anything wrong. I just watch Let's Plays, that's it. Anyway, let's start the video. Well, let's start with the absolute worst. By that, I mean just something purely disgusting and even uncomfortable. Yes, uncomfortable, because it's not often something I say with horror. Uncomfortable is not the first word to come in mind with that, but it really is uncomfortable. Once a wife and a mother, Marguerite Baker mutates after being infected with a mutated fungus. Her limbs drastically lengthen and a moulded nest surrounds her crotch. That's why I think she's the absolute worst. Her lady parts became infected with a nest full of insects. And insects do gross me out, although I don't hate insects, but they are kind of gross to me. And it doesn't help that she does thrust it at you. It's just... So let's see what this disgusting character would look like as a Pokemon.
Stay dead, okay?
E047 is a result of merging Mycete with Paris. Subject E047 can create small insect-like creatures that carry spores inside its fungal growths. Attempts have been made to analyse them, but they deteriorate after 5 minutes, leaving most findings inconclusive. It is currently contained in an artificial habitat resembling a swamp. E047 I think looks creepy and disturbing, and I tried to make that as best I could. Hopefully, even more so than Parasect. I did this while trying to make it look like a Pokemon, which is something I try to do with all entries, so balancing horror and Pokemon, quite difficult. So E047 has the fungus growing like a nest crotch of Marguerite with 2 limbs holding that fungal growth close. It also has long claws and dead eyes, and I definitely do find it disturbing and scary. For stats, this Pokemon has great attack and defense, but is terribly slow and has average HP. For its ability, you basically can poison, paralyze, or make your target fall asleep whenever this Pokemon makes an attack on it. For moves, we have a lot of good bug-type moves, including Swarm Infection, which followed by its ability, increases the likelihood of poisoning the target Pokemon. While definitely not the most powerful Pokemon in this video, it is still good and can definitely do some damage as a bulky sweeper. Miranda I do feel sorry for to some extent, as she lost her child to the Spanish flu in 1919. Over the next 100 years, she infected the whole village, created a cult and kidnapped a child, all to revive her dead daughter with a giant fungal root she found underneath the village's graveyard. I don't know if that's a good way to go about it. I'll admit, she definitely kept her looks over the years, but then she turned into a monster when her power was sucked away from her. She has quite a few mutations as well. Godlike, spider, and a bat. So let's see what Miranda, or Mother Miranda, will look like as a Pokemon.
My daughter! My
E142 secretes spores from its fur-like chest. E142 demonstrated examples of mother-like instincts with Mycete and other E-types, but it's even able to outwit and command them. Its cell is a dome made from 10-inch thick bulletproof glass that covers a 100-meter diameter. Just a random note, E142 has a crown with holes in its head. I don't know why, but I find it fun as a transparent image because you can move it around that, and I don't know, just something funny about transparent images. A little bit like Cloudzolt with its thunder wings. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I wanted to add a beak to make this Pokemon look more like a crow, and even gave it crazy rings, both as reference to Miranda and also the crow she commands.
Hold on. Miranda is often associated with birds, right?
As I said, it's specifically the crow, so yeah?
Is there a certain prehistoric bad Pokemon you've forgotten? One who you said needed something better than the fetus?
Just give Archeops a new ability. It needs a new ability. A hidden ability, whatever. Just give it one.
Moving on. For stats, this Pokemon has amazing speed, only equal to Regieleki I think, and it has great attack and some bulk. For its ability, there is Infected Pressure, which is very powerful. However, this Pokemon is also affected by it, so be careful when spamming your moves. Speaking of those moves, there are quite a few to choose from, but Feather Illusion is great if you want to avoid being hit, but be careful as you do increase any damage taken if you do get hit. This Pokemon would be interesting to use as a hazard or status setter with Spore and Stealth Rock, but it's up to you. Husband to Marguerite, Jack Baker was also a kind-hearted soul until he also became infected. Out of all characters in Resident Evil Bioshock, Jack makes the most drastic and frequent transformations. At first he still retains his human form, like most others, but eventually he mutated after being burnt, sawed in half, and impaled. Man, this guy's resilient. His second form is the most drastic, turning into something that resembles a toddler's sculpture portrait of the human form, with some creative liberties. But he was massive. Despite this, he was cured, and then disintegrated. Despite this, his final form resembles something like a human, but clearly more like a swamp monster from one of those older films, and has great physical strength, only matched by his uninfected brother. I think that's right, his uninfected brother, is it his brother? Anyway, his uninfected brother who pummeled him into a pulp. So let's see what this extremely resilient and aggressive man would look like as a Pokemon.
It's a farewell from the family, brother.
E248 was the first example of the Mycete mutations take. E248 is incredibly aggressive and too powerful to contain by standard means, so it is kept 500 feet underground inside a titanium alloy cell. I had to design this guy twice because I wasn't a big fan of how the first one turned out. I think it's because of the posture or the execution, it just seemed too cluttered. So I just abstracted it a bit basically. Unlike the last two entries, I took a bit more influence when making this Pokemon look more like that modern Japanese Godzilla, you know, the one with really long tail, and also has the bit of a muscle like Machamp. Oh, and the colour scheme is inspired by the Dark Child's art from the film Pokemon Forever. For stats, E248 has the greatest stat total so far in this video. While it's slow, it has great bulk alongside its equally great offense. For its ability, we have Infected Unnerve, which is brutal because if this Pokemon enters the field, no one can eat their berries, even if E248 leaves the field. For moves, there are a ton to choose from, but I'll talk about Blind Rage, which is basically similar to Counter, but more destructive. So best knock this thing out as soon as you can. If this Pokemon isn't Anubis, I'll probably go mental. Actually, it could be banned, like many other Pokemon in this video. I found something interesting on the wiki about this character. Basically, Lucas, one of the children of the Bakers, may have been mentally unstable when he trapped one of the bullies in his attic and sealing it with a remote fused with one of his trophies, which he disguised as a lamp. I think I do vaguely remember that when watching a playthrough of it. Unlike his parents, Lucas hasn't made any drastic mutations physically, but the mold definitely made him more psychotic with crazy booby traps and such. Eventually he did mutate when confronted with Crest Redfield in the Not a Hero DLC. He definitely looks gross, especially after he's defeated. Like, he literally melts into a fleshy puddle, and you can still see his skull and it's like, oh. However, I do find his design basic, I suppose, except for his Piranha Plant arm, which I didn't add in the design, but I got my reasons. So let's see what Lucas Baker would look like as a Pokemon.
Oh, I've got something for you! You're squirrel!
Unlike Cranidos and Rampardos, E049 has shown great examples of intelligence, able to solve puzzles most other E-types struggle with. The fungal growth emerging from its skull is incredibly explosive, ejecting a large mass of spores if ignited. When entering its cell, the room must be filled with water vapor to negate its explosive effects. We need more quadrupeds! Alright, seriously, I wanted to make this Pokemon more like a bull as a reference to how Pachycephalosaurs are related to Ceratopsians like Triceratops, and how this Pokemon behaves. Also, Lucas's mutation has long arms, so that's why it has longer forelimbs. And yes, that big bulging red thing emerging from its skull is its brain. For stats, 185 attack with extra speed and a little extra bulk is... that's really powerful. For abilities, it's similar to Infected Unnerve, except it only affects one Pokemon. For moves, I would say it hits hard. Mind Trap is a mixture of Shell Trap and Double Edge, which is destructive with that attack stat. But nope, you can't use a Focus Sash or Focus Band as the move will fail. But I think a Berry might work. Rampardos' attack is amazing, but with other stats holding it back. So I hope this Pokemon does give some redeeming arc to this Pokemon. If not, that's fine. To be honest, I do like Heisenberg as a character, I just think he's cool. Basically, he's one of Miranda's chosen four who has the ability similar to Magneto, being able to telekinetically move metallic objects with his mind. Apart from that, he's pretty normal. I like him not just because of his accent, but he isn't fooled like the other three members of the council, and he even made an army to fight against Miranda. Anyway, with his mutated form, I just find it very hard to make out, but he just turns to a steampunk cowboy cyborg on wheels, wielding large wood saws as weapons. That's cool. Anyway, let's see what this really cool Magneto cowboy would look like as a Pokemon.
This can't be the end for me! I must kill her!
The spores emitted by E411 resemble thick smoke. E411 seems to act most aggressively around E142, keeping its distance and its guard up. Furthermore, E411 has the telekinetic abilities with magnetic objects. E411 must be contained in a plastic container with 1 meter thick walls surrounded by water. Why won't I use a horseshoe for its design? It just works so well with the cowboy hat chimney heads on top of its frill. It takes the horse idea even further with single toes and slightly longer legs. Oh, And those things on its beak are tusks that look like cigarettes or cigars, if you get my reference. For stats, this Pokemon has basically a lot of defense and HP, and that's it, it's a wall with 2 immunities. For abilities, it has Infected Sturdy, where you will regret knocking this Pokemon out. For moves, I suggest going for a bulky stall set. Okay, Rebuild is great if you want to bulk up when switching into being attacked by a Steel type move. It was going to be a little bit more OP, where it was going to get knocked out, then come back, but with less defense. Oh, and it can't use items or switch out something. Very weird one, but I just thought that's a little bit OP, and I think this feels a little bit more realistic. Like I said, I feel this Pokemon would work best as a wall, and weaken your opponents for your other Pokemon to take on. Salvador Moreau is the most disgusting out of Miranda's 4 council members, and seems pretty useless until you realise he can control the enzymes he secretes. Sounds kind of gross, but definitely not a bad ability. Oh, and did I mention he turns into a giant fish monster that can spew acid rain? No? Well, he does, and he's very agile in the water. Despite these unattractive traits, he still thinks he has a shot at Miranda. I don't know, that's a vibe I'm getting. I don't know if it's like a child imprintment or a romantic infatuation, I don't know. I'll just leave it as that. His fish form, I think, might be the best designed monster in the game, even if it is still pretty gross with a human torso sticking out of its mouth. So let's see what this disgusting fish will look like as a Pokemon.
Oh, damn you!
In death as he was in life. Disgusting.
E565 is the timidest and most self-loathing of all E-types. It releases its spores by spraying them dissolved in acidic water from its mouth. It can create a greater stream when it tucks its head into its shell and fires a force of 1 kiloton. It is currently contained in a glass container filled with swamp water. E565 has currently not made any attempts to escape its containment. E565 was my most anticipated design, but it didn't come out as well as I hoped. I was hoping to make it look bigger and more armoured, but it came to this. Don't get me wrong, I like the result, but it's just not something I envisioned, which was way cooler. But you can see more of what I envisioned, with the shell looking similar to the mouth of the mutated form, and the bulges representing the eyes. Oh, and the mermaid tail is inspired by the Moreau crest. For stats, it's similar to E248, but is frail on the special defense and is quite a bit slower. For abilities, we have Infected Swift Swim, which makes up for this Pokemon's lack of speed. For moves, I put focus on physical moves, but you can use special moves if you like. Acidic Spout is like Water Spout, with the bonus of likely poisoning your targets. So be careful if you haven't got a Poison or Steel type as your ally in doubles. Overall, I think this Pokemon is fun to use and can be deadly if paired up with a Pelipper or Kyogre. I can't remember the ability that summons rain. I think it's Rain Dish? Oh boy, I bet at least some of you are getting excited now. To be honest, with Alcina Dimitrescu, I'm not really into her as much as some people on the internet. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get the appeal, but I just feel she's a bit too old for my taste. Plus she's kind of a vampire, which I think is cool, but not in a kinky way. Another one of the Four Lords, Dimitrescu owns a whole castle with her 3 daughters she created. Speaking of the 3 daughters, I didn't include them in this video as, to be honest, well, I'm not 100% certain, but I just feel they didn't fit in this video. However, if you did want me to see them made into Pokemon, please let me know. Now, Dimitrescu is pretty scary, with large retractable claws that can slice through anything. However, her mutated form is a bloomin' dragon. This is complex, but likely my favourite design in the game, because I love dragons, even if it is very mutated. Anyway, let's see what Alcina Dimitrescu, the internet's favourite vampire at the moment, would look like as a Pokemon.
You're the one who's cursed.
E697 infects its prey using its fangs, but the claws on its forearms also contain the pollen, both in liquid form. Unusually, some staff displayed recessive attraction towards E697, so most staff are shown images of E697 before being sent to its containment sector. E697 is contained in a reinforced steel room, decorated with marble sculptures and oil canvas paintings of E697. This, and giving it 10 litres of human blood a day, helps the E-type feel secluded in its cell. This is my personal favourite design. It looks so badass and creepy, mixing the regality of both the Tyrant Lizard and the Dimitrescu family, along with the vampiric and draconic properties. And no, it doesn't fly. Oh, and I wanted to use the jaws from the Isles, forgive me for mispronouncing this, Hypervendracori Gigantosaurus. Although I never properly played the game as my computer's game connection isn't the best. For stats, this Pokemon has the highest offensive stat in this video. It is slow, but it has some bulk behind it. For abilities, we have Infected Strongjaw, which is powerful, especially with Ice Fang. Precise Fang is brutal, can do 110 damage and has an 80% chance of flinching the target. Okay, the flinching isn't likely to work with this Pokemon's speed, but the accuracy and stab makes up for it. Please let me know if you think this Pokemon will be an OU or Ubers, because that would be amazing. Like Heisenberg, Donna's mutation is less physical and more psychological. Despite this, she still has fungal growths on her face, which she hides under her shawl. She has the ability to divide parts of her Kadu into her dolls, turning them into somewhat sentient puppets. Her favourite doll that she uses to communicate through is Angie. Not only this, but she has the ability to secrete a pheromone to control mold-infected plants to produce a hallucinogenic pollen. While definitely not the most physically powerful, she definitely has some unique abilities. Admittedly, I find her one of the most attractive of the four lords, from what I see in the portraits in the manner. Sue me. So let's see what Donna Beneviento would look like as a Pokemon.
Stupid idiot! What are you doing to my cute friends?
It's over.
E699 covers the right side of its face with the corresponding sail. The spores are visibly contained in the ice crystals on the side of its torso, neck, and lower end of its tail. It is unknown how this Pokemon secretes its spores, but anyone who inhales them instantly gain vivid hallucinations that can result in various deaths depending on the hallucinations the individual was having. E699 is currently contained in a standard room with the temperature being lowered to -10 degrees Celsius, where it is contained and the spores secreted are less likely to infect anyone over 5 feet away. Nevertheless, biohazard suits must be worn. To be honest, I'm happy how this turned out. Again, I wanted to incorporate the sun and moon eclipse from the Beneviento family crest into the design, which works brilliantly as the moon represents a dark night, which is used to conceal while the sun reveals. This I used with the sails and Donna's personality of hiding her visible infection. I also created a little head on the tail to create a subtle reference of Angie and her metaphor of what this Pokemon once was. For stats, this Pokemon has a strong special presence along with its HP and defense. For its ability, we have Infected Refrigerate, which is very powerful with a 10% chance of freezing. For moves, it surprisingly has a large variety, although a bulky sweeping set would work, although you can stall as well. Cold Masquerade is quite unique as it's a normal type move but can be changed to an ice type move with the ability. Plus it can be very powerful against strong special attackers. I feel this Pokemon can be very useful with its great stats, ability and the variety of moves it can learn. Not too much to say about these guys except they're the strongest of the rejected Lycans, with great strength and a werewolf-like appearance. I wanted to give Urias and Urias Treasure into this video as I had an idea for a fun design. Also, sorry if I mispronounced those names, they look so European. I mean, I know I technically knew it, but I'm not that sophisticated. Anyway, let's see what these werebear things would look like as a Pokemon. Arcto are able to wield an 8-foot long weapon with a 3-foot radius spiked dodecahedron. This weapon is covered in a half a meter thick layer of ice, despite this Pokemon not being an ice type itself. Arcto are incredibly aggressive and must be contained in a room heated to 30 degrees Celsius and trained with steel alloy cuffs. Probably the most drastic, we have a Arcto. I know, very creative. Who turns from a marine reptile to a terrestrial heavyweight werewolf. This was difficult but fun to do, and I'm happy to say it matches what I have envisioned. The tendrils not only work as a reference to Stragia, but fits with Arctonine's fleshy eyebrows. Yes, this is a fighting type, as I wanted to make every Pokemon have a unique type in this video. Otherwise it would be Dark Ice, and it doesn't, I don't know. Probably doesn't make sense, but you know. For starters, it has a good spread with emphasis on its physical abilities and bulk, but it has impressive special defense as well. For its ability, Infected Slush Rush is similar to 565's ability except in Hail. For moves, just hit hard or stack up its physical attack using its bulk. Cold Hammer is interesting as this Pokemon doesn't receive Stab, but is incredibly powerful with an added chance of Freeze. Although based on a side character, I do feel this Pokemon has some great competitive potential in the meta. Among Heisenberg's forces, which were humans with cybernetics and effectively Kadao Parasite, Sturm is the most unique with a propeller as his upper torso while having human legs and stubby arms, which he managed to cut off using the propellers on his face. Well done, it can still navigate with ease and is able to follow commands from Heisenberg, similar to like a doggy. Its abilities are simple but fun, being able to charge with its propeller and even produce flamethrowers. So, let's see what this plain hybrid will look like to Pokemon.
Now stay down.
Isolt wields intelligence similar to a dog, following simple commands by its bonded trainer. The E-type can rotate its head at 10,000 RPM to generate its electrical power. However, it can burn itself if excessive generation becomes too great. It is kept in a standard room made from... This was a tough Pokemon to design, but it was really fun to do. As well as Sturm, I also looked at the Ostrich as a reference, as I feel it would fit into something that's a mixture of agile but very large. For stats, like most other E-types, Isolt loses its speed but gains extra bulk with offensive power. For its ability, we have Infected Speed Boost, which is insane. For moves, just go special hard. Propeller Rush is like Cold Hammer, except it can burn, plus the recoil damage makes this move risky to use. All I can say is that Isolt can be used as a sweeper, but hasn't got any extreme bulk or speed to follow up. Not going to lie, I hate Evelyn. I mean, I like her as a character, but on a personal level, she's just a jerk. She has a messed up opinion of her family and shows no empathy or satisfaction with her life and others around her. Of course, it's no surprise because she was an experiment by the Connections, using the mold and DNA of Miranda's daughter, Eevee, for the purpose as a bioweapon. Anyway, Evelyn is arguably one of the most powerful characters in the Resident Evil games. Well, 7 and 8, I don't know about the others. With the ability to control minds and the mold itself. So let's see what this pretty overpowered brat would look like as a Pokemon. E-Proto's behaviour is childlike. It has a selfish personality with a desire to have a family. despite its lack of understanding of a family. It is able to control the spores from all other E-types and control others' minds using its psychic abilities. It is currently contained in the Titanium Room, but frequent escapes makes this Pokemon difficult to contain. E-Proto, I wanted to make it look feminine but not too human either. I hope I managed to achieve both, as I did find it hard. As well as Evelyn, this design also takes influence from her mutated form, the Greek mythology of Medusa, and Calamity Ganon's, what I think is called Phantom form, you know, the serpentine thing that goes around the castle before you go in. For stats, E-Proto has amazing special attack with great special defense but lacks any physical stats. For its ability, we have Infectious Manipulation, which makes this Pokemon an evasive time bomb. For moves, there are a few special moves to choose from. There are some good status moves, including Redirect, which is an interesting move as it gives the Pokemon more time on the field, or it can even cover for its teammate. I definitely suggest having Giga Drain to counteract the ability's HP drain. This is why I feel having accuracy checking moves like Aerial Ace are handy, because evasiveness is frustrating to fight against. Anyway, knowing the ban of evasion moves, this Pokemon could be banned, but if it's not, it'll have a tough time against fast physical attackers. Ethan was just an ordinary man until he was dragged into all of this mold business when his wife, Mia, went missing. Little did he know that she was working for the Connections. Now, Ethan is the least interesting on the surface until he was killed by Jack Baker. He was then rebuilt to life by the mold, retaining his memories and even having regenerative abilities. Out of all characters, Ethan is the closest to a normal person. His daughter, who we'll go into in a moment, was abducted by Miranda, and sadly he perished after saving her. I obviously didn't want to go into too much detail, but I respect that he does want to live a normal life, but is just forever connected to mold and he can never escape it. So let's see what this unfortunate soul would look like as a Pokemon.
Goodbye, Rosemary. Ethan.
E-Pollen is the only E-type that is allowed to roam around the site, as long as it's accompanied by a guard. E-Pollen is given the duty of recontaining any E-types that break out from their cells. E-Pollen is able to regenerate limbs with ease, however if its heart is destroyed or separated from its body, E-Pollen's regenerative abilities are drastically slowed permanently. This is one I feel mixed about, and I will admit it was difficult to come up with a good concept for it. I thought of a ninja space soldier with hands that change into weapons, but what do you guys think? Kind of reminds me a bit of the Predator from Predator. Yeah. Oh, and this Pokemon is a ghost type instead of a dark type, as I feel it will separate it from all other E-types, and is metaphorical that Ethan is in fact a ghost of his former self, rebuilt by the mold. For stats, I would say this Pokemon is the weakest so far, with no extreme stats, but with focus on bulk. For its ability, we have Regeneration, which is similar... Actually, yeah, it's a very similar name to Regenerate, now I think about it. If you guys have any suggestions for what better name could be, let me know. Anyway, this ability is very useful for longevity and recovery. For moves, there aren't any exclusive moves this time, but you have quite a few options, although Recover would be great on this Pokemon. To be honest, I don't know how the stats would help this Pokemon in the meta, but I think it can be good with its ability and a good held item. Before I continue on to the next entry, to obtain E-Proto and E-Pollen, Mycetophagites has to be in a certain in-game location as the only Pokemon in the party, so basically it's a level up evolution with extra steps. E-Proto is obtained when the player character is a female, and E-Pollen if the character is male. Rose was a major catalyst in the Resident Evil Village game, being abducted by Miranda from Ethan and Mia, all because Miranda thinks that Rose will be the perfect host for her deceased daughter, Eevee. Despite being a baby, Rose definitely has some power, being able to survive being crystallized and separated into 4 parts, and even sapping the powers of Miranda. Yeah, that's powerful. Going forward to Rosemary as a teenager/adult, she was put under care and being tested by the BSAA, who were afraid of her potential. Of course I would try and make a Pokemon from Rose. She has shown some interesting traits as a baby, and I would like to attempt to speculate and expand upon with a Pokemon version of what Evelyn could grow into, as childish that might be. Anyway, let's see what this seed would look like as a Pokemon. Yes, that was deliberate.
Hey, Dad. Happy birthday. Sorry I missed last week. I have a lot of tests coming up. You know how it is. Talk of the goddamn devil. Duty calls. I love you.
R-Seed is the first and only R-type known. It has the ability to sap energy from all E-types and is immune to the spores they produce. Before anyone goes at me, I have taken creative liberties where the only way to obtain this Pokemon is to breed E-Proto and E-Pollen in daycare, which I'm aware isn't exact with the Resident Evil 7/8 lore. I just thought that it would save me an unnecessary Pokemon design, as I find Mia's mutated form pretty dull compared to the other characters in the 2 games, to be honest. This Pokemon is my least favourite design in execution, but that's just because of the eyes and maybe the mouse. Just I try to make it look cute, but also diamondy. That just did not. It just. Other than that, I like the concept of it being a gem shaped like a rose seed and also looking like a baby wrapped in cloth. The stats: this Pokemon is slow, terrible offense, but has got good defenses. Mycete Drain is powerful. E-types cannot touch this Pokemon at all. Can be handy if you need to store against E-types in the meta, but can only be used as a wall. And yes, this Pokemon does evolve. The White God is birthed from the Black God, destined to defeat the Gemide and free the innocent from the captive memories the poison flower keeps. Redacted, that's what I'm calling it, even though it doesn't actually have a proper name, is the legendary Pokemon in this video. It was originally going to be a mixture of just E-Proto and E-Pollen, but I thought to have attributes of all the other entries, which was hard to do in a Pokemon design. And yes, it is similar to Mewtwo in some cases, since this Pokemon has some similarities with the infamous legend, mainly having strong psychic abilities. Stats: this Pokemon is the successor of E-Proto with the same special attack, but this Pokemon has better bulk and speed. For its ability, I thought to have the power of the mold, where this Pokemon gains an advantage if anyone tries to hit it with a super effective poison or dark type move. Also, it cannot be poisoned. For moves, it has a little of everything, although mainly special moves. Resident Wrath is insanely powerful, but does come at a cost of half its HP. Unless you have Giggle Drain and you can just heal it off. I just hope this Pokemon is Anubis. That's it. Definitely interesting to see how this Pokemon works against the E-types. Although, thinking about it, I know that E409 has Mold Breaker, which definitely would be a challenge. You'll see what happens. I do apologise if I made any mistakes with explaining the brief lore and of the Resident Evil games. As I said, I never played them, just watched Let's Plays of them. And if you find the newer designs odd, or the original designs quite odd, then I'll likely revisit them. And also, kind of a bit of a stretch connection, but I do notice that there are similarities between the E-types, excluding E-Proto and E-Pollen, and Pibby. If you haven't heard about that show, then, well, it's not really a show, it's just what you call a short pitch. I'll just put that in the description just for you guys to watch, but just look up Learning with Pibby, you'll probably be scarred. Anyway, I do apologise if the audio isn't that great. I'm admittedly still trying to experiment with audio narration, but you know, within the time limit. Like, I got some big plans soon, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, so a bit of promotional stuff now. If you want to see the Halloween episode that all these Pokemon are based on, then please check that out. And I would like to thank my patrons for their support and choosing the design for this thumbnail, which in this case is E697, or the Tyrantrum infected Tyrantrum. So if you want to support this channel and get some extra perks, then please check it out. Please follow my social media if you want to follow me. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future, and don't forget to click that little bronzong if you want to see more from me in the future. So, thank you all for watching this video. In the past, present, or even future. I will see you there. Goodbye. And happy Halloween, even if it is a week later.